Let's address Bitegate. Almost 2 weeks ago at the UFC on ESPN 53 card, Igor Severino was disqualified for biting his opponent, Andre Lima, mid-fight. Yeah, you heard that right. That's exactly what went down for those that maybe don't follow the sport every week. Severino was then cut from the UFC, and the NAC has held his purse. Now, in an exclusive interview with Nolan King a few days ago, Severino gave his part of the story. So, Nolan, what was your biggest takeaways after chatting with Severino? And did that change your whole opinion of the incident?
I'm not sure that it changed it necessarily. I kind of had mixed feelings going into it, but I would say this. I feel like I walked away from that interview with the sense of I feel like everyone handled something that was so wrong very properly. Like I think the UFC was not everyone. I'll get to the people that didn't, but the UFC handled it. I think in a way that many of us find acceptable. Having a zero tolerance policy for something like that. I mean, that's just about as egregious of a foul as you can have in MMA. So I don't fault them. I don't fault them for cutting him. I also give him a lot of credit for accepting responsibility for it, for apologizing. You know, he in the interview we did, obviously I wrote a story on it, but we talked for about 50 minutes. There was a bit of a language barrier there, so it did take a little bit of time for it to kind of flow. But I could tell through hearing him in some of his answers and the emotion that he was presenting, he'd be talking and I could hear him start to tear up or to kind of get the frog in his throat a bit. And I wouldn't know exactly what he was saying until it came back to me. So to me, it felt very genuine. He apologized more times than I could count. I included like one apology in there, but I would say that every other question that we talked about started with some form of an apology. So good on him for kind of absorbing the blame. I would say the two things that, I don't feel necessarily great about, the Nevada Athletic Commission withholding his purse. We've seen it before with kind of other egregious fouls. I think that can be debated on whether that's right or wrong, to not give him his show money. I think the other thing is too absolutely disgusting, people threatening his family, which is the answer that he was definitely getting a little bit very emotional through. He couldn't finish his answers at times. He had to take a break. So that's obviously about as despicable and gross as it gets to start dragging family members of fighters that you watched on TV who did something wrong and threatening them. That's just next level terrible. As of where it goes from here, I do like to think that there's a path for somebody that doesn't have a history, who's 20 years old, who has a pretty good reputation. I didn't just hear it from his side. I went out and I kind of talked to some of the other very connected Brazilian managers, promoters about him. Seems like he has a good reputation in the gym. Promoters haven't had a problem with him, no issues. So I think, there should be some sort of road to redemption for him. Now, what is that? What is that road? Will it be the UFC again? I wouldn't hold it against the UFC if they didn't want to take that risk again after what happened. If they feel liable, like, hey, this guy did something really wrong in your promotion and then you brought him back. And what if he does it again? Or what if something happens? But I certainly don't think he should have to wear like a scarlet letter for his whole career and never get to fight again. But even if I'm the UFC, I think down the line, a couple of years from now, if he continues to be on the straight path and he continues to win, like I think it's something that should be revisited for sure. So definitely a strange scenario, very unusual, but I do think outside of a foul that he doesn't even remember, according to him, which some people will say, oh, like this guy's just, of course he doesn't remember doing something, but these guys do get hit in the head. So I'm never going to rule out that guys get hit with a concussion, guys get irrationally angry. Like I used to work on an ambulance before I worked for MMA Junkie, and some of the people I would see there, old ladies would turn into absolute just angry individuals, right? Because they were dealing with getting hit in the head or concussion or something. So I understand how it's an easy out. I also understand like the reality of the sport is people can kind of have those same issues happen. Nobody's going to know except him if that's true or not. So I would like to see a road to redemption at some point if he continues his behavior, but I understand if promotions aren't willing to give him that second chance. So what do you think, Goes?
Look, what I'm going to say about this is, look, he made about as bad as a mistake as you can do in our sport, right? But is it something that he can't come back from? I think he can. I mean,
he did all of the right things in the beginning, right? Saying all the right stuff with Nolan. I think that's very important to be accountable for what you do. Um, but one thing that you have to be consistent with the UFC is, I agree with your punishment. He probably had to go. I agree with that. But you better be consistent with it, right? If Hamzat Shemaev bites somebody, he better be gone too. Otherwise, people are going to go, what the hell's going on here, right? That's one of the big problems. But if you look at like the history of combat sports, when you think of a guy like, say, Mike Tyson, how many times do we ever go, you mean the guy that bit Holyfield's ear off? Like, nobody really talks about that much anymore. You can come back from things, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it happens early on in your career. I think there is opportunity for him to make amends. It's going to be a long road back, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, I would say that for Severino, I have a bit of a soft spot for him. I come from the world of well, I tune in and I watch. I'm a big fan of soccer, and we've seen Luis Suarez bite multiple people. And
Yeah.
in soccer games, this is combat sports, so I don't want to play down the bite, but I really hope this doesn't sort of mark the rest of his career. No pun intended there. I mean, the guy was undefeated prior to this fight. Young kid, just 20 years old, was born in 2003. We all make mistakes. The fight was a banger. I would like to see him get some sort of redemption, whether it's the PFL or somewhere else, because outside of the bite, that's a talented prospect right there. That guy has a lot to give to the sport. So, yes, take it easy on him, guys. Even the guy that got bit is saying that he shouldn't lose his job, that it's okay, that it was in the heat of the moment. So if you're out there watching, don't go out there threatening his family and threatening him. Take it easy on the guy. So, yeah,